Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Schoolscape online webinar. The purpose of these webinars is to help take your school online, also to help you get back when you. So I think today's topic is super relevant. Live with me is Songiso from MTN. So Songiso, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. Songiso, before we dive in and start asking some questions, who are you at MTN?
Thanks, Peter. Good afternoon to you, Peter, as well as to all the webinar participants. I'm really excited to join you in this webinar, as well as to join the schools that are sitting over the country, wherever the participants are. The name is Songezo indeed. My last name is Masiso. I'm the acting general manager within the SMA division within the enterprise part of the MTN South Africa business. And that's really the biggest contributor, I must say proudly, within the enterprise business in MTN South Africa. And we are represented mainly, majority nationally through our channels, various channels that we have, our stores, our virtual sales account managers teams, which actually have joined me on this webinar. I'll talk a lot more about that as we go along.
Brilliant. So, thank you. It's a pleasure having you here. Before we start talking about MTN's offering, I think it's good that we understand some of the challenges. So, Songiza, maybe to start with us, first question. What are the challenges being faced by learners, teachers, parents when it comes to connectivity?
Thanks for that. It's really a good question, especially now where we are as a country, in fact, globally, due to the COVID-19 pandemic that's happening. So I think even prior to COVID-19, I think as a telco, we've seen challenges within the education sector around connectivity. It's even more a challenge right now because, as we know, almost, in fact, all the schools are not at school and everyone is at home. I, as a parent myself, I'm experiencing that. I've got a 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. And I'm also working from home, as you can see my background. I'm really at home. And it's really a challenge. And I think challenges that are facing the teachers as well as the learners, I think it's really access to data. Very important, access to data and access to reliable data, even more so. Reliable connectivity, cheaper data, and I think more importantly during this COVID-19, shorter term contracts. Because I'm a firm believer that COVID-19 will not be here forever. At some point, I think we're praying that we will come out of this. And indeed, then the learners can go back to school. But at this stage, we are where we are, and therefore the need, for teachers as well as for learners is to access cheaper connectivity, reliable connectivity, and during this time within their home environment, in a reliable manner, definitely.
Brilliant. I think well answered. I'm also, you mentioned you've got 2 kids at home. I do as well. And I am appreciating my teacher even more now, just with just managing kids at home. So teachers, thank you. So for all the schools that are viewing in, on your right, you will see there's a chat bar. So please, I see everyone saying hello. Thank you. That is fantastic. If you have any questions, you will see there is a questions tab. Just one kind of click across. Please, any questions, pop in there. And what we will do is at the end, we'll make sure there is time for Songizo to respond to those. Okay, so Songiza, I think the big reason why everyone is here is we know connectivity is an issue. Interestingly enough, we know a lot of schools that are actually buying airtime for teachers and for parents to keep them connected. So what does MTN have to help with connectivity?
It's really a good question, Peter. I can see as well the comments. But I think as we go along, I'll do my best to make sure that I touch on some of the elements that are being raised by the audience during the webinar. But just straight to this question, I think besides the price point and shorter term contracts that we have to offer, I think I must state this. This is one of the important things that when I mentioned the challenges that are facing the teachers and learners out there is to have cheaper connectivity and more importantly, reliable connectivity. We as MTN have been voted in a number of, I think in the past 3 years right now, as the fastest mobile network out there. I think some of us may have seen in the news, and these votes are done through my broadband. And I think we're proud of that. It is something that's very important because, as you know, it's one thing to get cheaper data, but rather, and you don't have reliable connectivity, you may struggle thereof. In fact, many of our customers that we engage with, they would tell you that I would rather pay a premium service than not to get good quality connectivity. I think I must say that whoever joins our network, and would like everyone who's on the webinar to join our network, you'll be joining the best network in the country. And it's been voted by you as the customers out there that have been using our network. So really, that's one of the things that are important. But to your point, straight to the point, what do we have to offer? We do have prices, mobile data prices that are good, as well as shorter term contracts. And I'm going to make a reference to a couple of them on this in terms of what exactly do we offer on this. So there is a flagship data 10 gig price point that we shared. Initially, I think, Peter, you have corrected that on the communication. We initially shared a 10 gig at 139, which is based on a longer term contract, which is basically a 24 months contract. And there's a reason why we shared that. And I think it's important for us to appreciate and to know that should you then have a need for a longer term contract, because perhaps you do have a need for the school, irrespective of COVID-19 or not, that is also an option. But in the shorter term, we do have contracts that range from 1 month and all the way to 6 months as shorter term. So we have terms of 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and 24 months. And the prices, they range for the data sizes depend on the contract term. And there's a reason for that. You know, one can appreciate that. Of course, in any network, you get the benefit when you actually have a longer term commitment. And that's why then you find that the longer term contracts are actually much cheaper than the short term contracts. So for an example, if you take a 1 month contract on a 10 gig, then one pays 189. For a 20 gig, then you pay 269. For a 30 gig, 369. And that's for a 1 month contract. And the prices then they reduce when you go to a longer term contract, such as your 6 months contract, and it comes down to 169 for a 10 gig contract. For a 20 gig contract, it goes down to 249. For a 30 gig contract, it goes down to 349. So those are the offers that we've got at the moment. And these offers, they are SIM only offers, SIM only contracts, but there is also options of adding a router at really a mere fraction of a 20 rands additional price if you add a router that goes with that. I know that here I'm elaborating more. I hope that actually answers that question.
Yeah, I think let's dive into the SIM only contracts. I think it's important to understand. So am I correct in saying you need to get a new SIM card? And then that SIM card every month gets loaded. So if you take the 1 month contract, you just get it for a month, or for 3 months, then it comes through every month. So am I correct in saying you just need a SIM card? Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. You just need a SIM card if you take a SIM only deal. And obviously when you take a SIM only deal, you would either be putting into a device that you already have as a customer, whether that device is a cell phone or the device is a MiFi router or MiFi dongle that you have at home, or even a router that you already home is existing. But for anyone who doesn't have the router, who doesn't have the device to connect that SIM card, that is why, therefore, we have an option to say you can add a router at a price point of 20 rands extra to the price point that we indicated before. Okay. So spot on in that the SIM only means you get a SIM card and it gets loaded with data on a monthly basis. Even if you take a 1 month contract, you still get that data every month, and you pay the contract on a monthly basis up until you then cancel the contract. So we'll continue to load data on that contract, and we'll continue to bill for that service up until you then put in a formal cancellation.
Okay, so it's a recurring contract that you just cancel whenever you want. Songiso, a big question that's come through. A lot of people asking that 10 gigs or the 20 gigs, is that 20 gigs, 10 gigs anytime, or is it 5 gigs in the day, 5 gigs at night? What constraints are there on that data?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, because sometimes those kind of things, they become silent, and if you don't ask that question and we're not transparent in that, people may get lost in that to say, is there nighttime within that? Is there any time? So all the price points that I've shared just now, those are anytime data, which means the data is available to you any time of the day, whether night or during the day, and throughout. So these options that I've mentioned, they are anytime. And obviously there's a reason why we've gone with the options of anytime, because I don't foresee that for schools, children will be learning at night. If you look at what night shift is really from midnight all the way until the morning. I think many of the networks would say until 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning. So we really looked at that as an option and said, look, it doesn't make sense to be a proposition for the community that we're engaging with right now. So it's really anytime, all the offers that we've got.
Okay. And Sangeeta, a big question. Can you add this to a present contract, or is this a new contract?
All right. This you would have to be a new contract, all right, in terms of the actual SIM card that you get, whether it's 1 or 2 SIM cards. It will be a new SIM card, new contract. However, you can add this to your existing account if you already have an account with MTN. If you don't have an account with MTN, then we would have to open an account for you, and then you would then load this contract. So it is a new contract.
Okay, brilliant. And then Songeeta, and I think this is the important thing to understand, is how does the school actually access this contract? Because I know this contract is not open for an individual. It's linked, if I understand correctly, through a business account. So if a school is saying, yes, I want this, I want it for teachers or for parents, how do they go about actually getting it?
Very, very, very important, Peter. There are 2 ways one can take this contract within the school environment. You are correct in saying that these offers that we've created are for businesses, and therefore we have done these tailor-made products at good price points for businesses. So, for an example, if one looks at what is our price point for an example, for a gig for prepaid, you'd find that the 1 gig price point for prepaid is 99 rands. And therefore, you'd find that this is actually a very much affordable, or very much a good offer for businesses, or specialized offers for businesses. Now, there are 2 ways. Either a school can take this contract under the school's name. Okay, that's one option. And therefore, we treat the school as a business. So we'd apply for a business account and would open that. But we also have a second option, which is under our program. We call it Corporate Consumer or Employee Connect. What that program says is that we can extend these offers to the parents that have got the children that are attending at that school. But however, we will link those parents to the school. But the parents would actually be accountable for the contract. They would actually pay for the contract themselves, but they would qualify for this contract by virtue of their kids going to that school. We can then put processes alongside that, along with that, by saying perhaps the school can write a letter for the parents indicating that their child goes to the school, and would use that letter as authorization within our environment to actually do approvals. We already do with this program in a big way in the corporate environment. So today we do engage with our big corporate accounts, whether it's a bank or whether it's an insurance company, and the individuals that work for those organizations, they actually qualify for the same offers that we give to those corporates. And therefore, what we've done, I've taken a decision to say, let's extend the very same way of doing things in the corporate environment to the schooling environment, and in that fashion where the parent can access this.
Okay, that's brilliant. Quibus just asked a question that I think ties in with this. So, Songiso, he says here, if we register the school under MTN Business, how will the billing work? Will the school just request SIM cards and then pay month to month? Or would I be correct in saying that the parents, if the school gives them a letter, could take it out through MTN Business?
Okay, so I think the question is in twofold. Then, what Gobas was asking is, if the school takes the contracts under their name, how would we bill for that? So in that case, we would bill the school, so the school would be accountable and pay the account. If it's the other option where the parent applies for the contract, we would bill the parent directly for the services, even though the school would have written a letter, and the letter would indicate that the parent has got a child that attends at that school, because we would have loaded, firstly, that school as one of our corporate accounts or one of our business accounts. So prior to that, we would need the school actually to say, we would want to partake in this program. We are school A, and therefore we register that school. That does not mean that we would bill the school. If the school has taken the option to say the parents are going to pay for the service, we would just be registering the school for recognizing that those parents have got children that attended that school to ensure that they actually qualify for the offer. But in that particular case, we would not bill the school.
Okay, I think that's great, because what it can also do is reduce the risk for the school that they don't have to have the contracts. But what it is it's allowing a parent to get a business contract when they would not normally be allowed to. So I think that's actually fantastic. Okay, so Songiso, the questions are coming through fast and furiously. So big question has come through a couple of times. So this is from Richard. What happens when data runs out? Is it a hard cap? Is there out of bundle rates? So 10 gigs is a lot, but if the student goes wild, what happens?
Yeah. That's a very good question, actually. So in a case where the school would take the contract, would actually assign an account manager to the school, which is the virtual sales account manager, where my team is actually connected to this webinar, and they would actually manage that account for the school. In a case where the school would require more data for all the SIM cards or for certain SIM cards, they would actually put in a request via email to the virtual sales account management team to load more data, because we do have some ad hoc bundles at very reduced prices, ad hoc bundles that we can load on the SIM card at additional cost, and obviously that will be form part of the bill or the invoice that comes out. That's in the case of the school having taken the contracts under the school's name. If it's the other option where the parent has taken the contract under their name, in that option, we've got various tools where the parent can actually load more data when they run out. Because these contracts that we've got, they operate almost like a top-up type of contract, because we're creating flexibility. So they're very flexible. So as a parent, you can either go into your bank and be able to buy more data, because we would make the cell phone number available to the parent. So the parent would actually go into the bank and buy more data, or the parent could actually visit any of our MTN stores. They can actually buy more data there, and they have their cell phone number. They could even go to the MTN app and actually buy more data by using maybe perhaps a credit card and be able to pay for that within that, or use our USSD option to actually load top-up data when they actually run out. So those are the options available to when the contract is taken under the parent's name. But when it's taken under the business name, would need then the organization, which is the school, to send a formal request, because the treatment from an organization versus an individual is slightly different. From an organization, because we are billing the school, there needs to be authority that is given by the school to actually load more data for any SIM card.
Brilliant. And Songiso, I think just a follow-up question on that is, so if they need to top up, they'll be speaking directly to your team. So they're not going through like a massive call center. They're going to essentially be getting hold of you or one of your team. Is that correct?
That is correct. In fact, even better, Peter, like I said, for particulars for any school that actually we onboard, would actually assign a virtual sales account manager that is actually a known person. So to that school, they would know so and so, either a diversion or either a lease or whatever, and the account manager, they would know that individual. They would have contact details of that individual. They would have an email address of that individual, and that individual would actually do account management for that particular school. So they would not go to a contact center, but rather going through this specific individual.
Okay. So Giza, another question. Martin asks, why would I rather not just get MTN Momo airtime? 8 Rand for 500 meg. Sorry, I don't know what MTN Momo is. Can you answer that one?
All right. So it's actually exciting to know that within the audience, there's actually people that know our Momo services, which is really mobile money, which is actually a virtual wallet. So it's a new product that we've just launched this year, which is basically under our financial services within MTN South Africa. So yes, we've got some data offerings within the Momo platform, but those data offerings are more geared for consumers. In other words, they are for an individual that is not tied to any organization. So as an individual, you can open a Momo account. You would not necessarily be tied to a school. Yes, you can buy data, but when you're buying data under the Momo account, you're actually buying data for your cell phone, because you will have access to Momo through your cell phone. And when you're buying a Momo bundle, you're actually buying it for your cell phone. Whereas this is different in that it is actually a business offering, and that data you get every month and you pay for it on a monthly basis. So slightly different platforms. And obviously, yes, we are going very aggressive on our data price points in Momo. As an example, that was highlighted to say 500 meg at about 8 rands. And one must look at also the validity of that data. Sometimes you find that data at 500 megs at 8 rands would also sometimes be a weekly data that's available to you weekly, or it's available for 7 days. So we do short-term validity when it comes to that kind of data. And we are going very aggressive on those data offerings on Momo because we are launching Momo. So we're trying to get Momo out there within the public. And it's more of a consumer offering.
Okay, and then I just did a quick sum, and it looks like the Momo prices would, if I'm guessing, would be pretty similar to what you're offering already. Your price points, if you take longer term contracts through MTN, would actually be less than that. So I just did 8 Rand times 20 to get to the 10 gig mark, and it comes in at about 160 odd Rand. So it would be a similar price point, or possibly even cheaper if you were taking a contract through the MTN Business. Okay. So
that is spot on, because that comes in at the six months type of contract, 169. If you look at a 24 months contract, it's even cheaper than at 139. But understandably so, in this particular context, we're looking at shorter term contracts. So you are right, it fits into the bracket of a 6 months type of a contract in terms of the per meg rate of the example that was made on the Momo.
Okay, awesome. I had a question here from Nikki. Thanks, Giza. You're doing so well with these questions. So Nikki says, is it possible to access this offer on a platform like SIM Control? A prepaid option would actually be practical, as the number of learners requiring fluctuates depending on need and area. Okay,
I'm not quite sure if I understand very well Nikki's question, but let me try and answer it in this way. These types of contracts that we talk about, in their nature, they are a top-up type of a contract. So if you, for an example, a school or the parent would take a 1 month contract or even 3 months contract, and they would pay for that service on a monthly basis, and they run out of data in a particular month. That student, the parent, can actually go and load more data on the SIM card in a more of a prepaid type fashion. So like I've indicated, via the app, via USSD or even via your bank. So in their nature, they actually allow you to actually add more data as and when you need.
Okay.
I hope that answers Nikki's question.
Thank you, Songiso. So Songiso, there's so many questions. I'm not going to get to all of them, so you might have to stay online a little bit longer and just type in responses.
Okay, no problem.
A big question here. So Dale asks, if you are already on a contract with MTN, does the special still apply to teachers? So I'm guessing, to clarify on this, the person would have a contract as an individual consumer. If they want the special, then do they have to set up a new contract? How would they do it for a teacher?
Okay, that's a very good question. So as I've highlighted earlier on, in that particular instance, first and foremost, we would need the school that the teacher is linked to actually register with us as one of the entities that want to partake on the program. And I must highlight, if the school is not going to take a contract under their name, but they would rather let the teachers pay for the contracts directly and let the parents pay for the contract directly. There is no cost when we actually load the school within our platform to say you will partake on this. There's no cost to the school. There will be cost obviously for the teachers as well as for the parents. In that particular case, the teachers in this example has got a contract already with MTN and would like one of these to add one of these contracts. We can actually have a new contract added on the teacher's account in that particular case. But for as long as the school would have registered then prior, and then we can then identify the teacher. In that particular case, we either can identify the teacher by using the payslip of the teacher, because those are some of the requirements in any case to do credit vetting against the teacher, all right? And because the payslip would actually indicate the entity that you work for, which is the school. So in that case, we can identify that you as a teacher, you actually work for the school. The reason that we don't necessarily need a payslip from the parents, but rather the letter that I indicated, is because a payslip from a parent perspective does not indicate that you actually link to the school, but rather the letter that I indicated would actually use that as a way to validate that you as a parent actually have a child with that actually goes to the school. So there's just a slightly two different processes, if I'm put that way, for the teachers as well as for the parents, but they would both qualify for these offers provided we then register the school.
Awesome. I think so. The question is a big one, because I think it's going to explain our next step. So Kevin Steenkamp, who we know very well, hello Kevin, he asks, what is the package called? How do we get this for a few staff members? How do we manage it? So what are the steps if people want this?
Good question from Stephen. So these packages, the name of the package is called Made for Business Data. From about 2 years ago, we created these offerings, unique offerings for businesses, and we use the name Made for Business. So in this particular case, it's called Made for Business, and they define sizes. So there's a Made for Business Data M, which is for medium, Made for Business Large, Made for Business Extra Large, and Made for Business Double XL. And the last one, which is 100 gigs, is called Made for Business Pro. So those are the names of the packages. Once again, we will send out comms after this that indicates all of these names of the packages, as well as the size of the data that you get, as well as the price points per contract term. So that will come out, and I believe, Peter, a part of your newsletter, that will come out then on the email out to everyone. So that's one. So those are the names of the packages. And how do you access these? So I did indicate before that we have a virtual sales account management team that will be managing this. And why did we go virtual? I think we all are aware of the limitations due to COVID-19, limitations around movement, and as well as in trying to stick to social distancing. We have created this vehicle for convenience for you as the parents, as well as the schools, to ensure that you don't have to actually leave your home to actually go to a store or whatever you can go to, but rather you can actually place the order as a school through our virtual team. and by sending an email and also getting in contact with our teams via a number. There is a number that we will share as well.
I've just shared the number now, and I've shared the email address in the chat bar. And the email that everyone gets after this webinar, thanking them for viewing, will also have the telephone number and email address.
That would be great. And therefore, the school can actually use those details to get in contact with our team. One of the virtual account management team will then give the school the requirements in terms of paperwork. They will then process the paperwork. And when it comes to the SIM cards or any devices, they will then be couriered directly to the school or couriered directly to either the principal or the administrator within the account, because there's no one at school. So we can courier actually directly to their home and whoever's authorized within the school, and then they can use the services. If it is a parent that is ordering the services, we'll also follow the same process in that we will courier the services directly to the home of the parent. And off we go, they can then use the services immediately.
Awesome. So Ngisa, we are out of time, but there's one more question I would like to ask. It's a little bit off topic, but it's been asked about 4 times. But before I get to that, I think to all the schools listening, like I know for me personally, here's my contract, my phone, it's MTN. I was as an individual, then I bought it through my business just because it's so much more affordable. So I think that MTN is making this available for parents, staff, is game changing, because I know just the saving I've had with a business contract versus a personal, but I had to do it through the business. So now that they can essentially do it through a school and the parents can still pay or the teachers can still pay, I think is game changing. So Ngisa, I think well done. I would recommend to all the schools, the telephone number, the email address there, just to drop them a mail. I've been dealing with Songisa's team. They are great at getting back to you. So I would recommend that definitely. And then Songisa, the question that comes up and is coming up about 1 million times, 0 rating. I know it's not your department, but people are asking about 0 rating, and is it's possible to 0 rate Google Hangouts or Google or Microsoft Teams? Do you have any input on 0 rating?
I actually do have a lot of input on 0 rating. We've already done a lot around 0 rating websites, and I will touch on that point around Zoom and all the platforms that are being used by the schools. But let me highlight the following. So prior to COVID-19, and especially during COVID-19, when COVID-19 started, it's been a really hot topic within our environment around 0 rating content for universities, for schools, to ensure that we can actually reach as much as possible, or people can have access to platforms that are of educational focus. So, and then this actually stems as part of our belief as MTN, in that everyone deserves the benefits of a modern connected life. And that's really, really something that's important to us at MTN, because it's one of our key focus areas or key beliefs that we have within MTN. And what we've done so far, we've actually 0 rated a couple of content websites or content, digital content, such as the platform called Siyavula platform, which is really a platform, educational platform, that is that providing high school mathematics as well as science practices, questions, as well as free online books for students. Another one was a platform called To Enable website, which is basically a DBE approved platform that offers detailed curricula and learning material for grade R all the way to grade 12 learners. And I think the last one I want to touch on is called Ilico Maths Education, which provides free and world-class mathematics training for grade 7, 8, and 9. So those are some of the platforms and many more that we've actually 0 rated already. And I'm happy that we can share these platforms actually as part of the newsletter, as part of the communication that will go out after this, because I think it definitely to add value for the schools to know which platforms are 0 rated already within the MTN network, And we've done that obviously to ensure that the data consumption that will be used by the parents or by the learners or by the teachers is actually much reduced. Now, let's talk directly on the question that was asked on Zoom as well as the other platforms. At this stage, we're actually finding it difficult to zero-rate those platforms. And the reason for that is because the technology that we use within our environment, which is it's called reverse bill URL type of a service. The protocols, if I may go technical, the protocols and the technology that is used there is not able to identify how a Zoom, for example, a Zoom connectivity operates within the network. They have very unique or very different ways of operating. Zoom is one example, or Google Classroom as an example. The way that they run the protocols on the network, it makes it very difficult for mobile networks to actually zero-rate that type of content. It has come through from many organizations to say, are we able to zero-rate that type of content? And sometimes it has come through not as a free zero-rated type of service. Some organizations were even willing to actually pay for the reverse build data on that. So an example is that a school would say, I want to pay for the data consumption on Zoom. In other words, I want to make it free for my learners. And at the moment, we're not able to do that within our mobile network because we're not able to identify that traffic on the mobile network, simply because of how those platforms are actually transmitted over the network. So that's a limitation at this point in time. Are we going to be able to do it in the future? We'll probably find a solution.
Okay, awesome. We are out of time, sadly. We have a lot more questions. If I could ask if you could please stay online, and on your right is the questions tab. If you could answer those. We've got questions coming in asking about you in comparison to like Vodacom and Vox, and how long notice you need to give. So there are a lot of questions there if you would have a bit of time to go through those. Also, if Songiso can't get to them, to all of our listeners, please just drop that email address a call, call the number or drop an email. Please get hold of them. Their team will come back to you. Thank you, everyone else. We really appreciate you viewing live. We're going to be doing a lot more webinars to help you as schools during this very tricky period. And then, Songiso, thank you. I know you especially put your shirt and collar on for us today to look smart from working from home, so we appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for creative and opening up business accounts for parents and schools that would normally not get it. So I think that's brilliant. So Songiso, thank you. To all of our viewers, thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And to all our viewers, thank you very much.
Brilliant. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.